morning, Bucknutters. It's Thursday, September 1st, 2016. I'm Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Joined as always on Thursdays by Steve Wiltfong. Steve, September 1st, kind of the first day of football season in a lot of ways. Are you ready to roll?
Yeah, Dan, it's also the first day of recruiting season officially, I guess, with the class of 2018 hearing from college coaches for the first time. Obviously, they could initiate contact to this point, and there's already a bunch of big names on Ohio State's board in that class. But big day all around.
So we'll get to 2018 for sure. As Steve mentioned, today is the first day. Programs can officially contact guys. So you can read into who gets the calls at 12:01, kind of like free agency in pro sports. But we'll get to that in a sec. 2017, though, has kind of been our topic of conversation here with 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting for a while. And two of the names we discussed ad nauseum, J.K. Dobbins and Cam Akers, two running backs that at one point in time it looked like both could end up in Ohio State's class. Now, if the crystal ball means anything, it's trending away for both. You recently put in a change for Cam Akers. Why don't you go into detail on that and then maybe update everyone on what you think of J.K. Dobbins, and then we'll go from there.
Regarding Cam Akers, I just think that has really tightened up. I thought Ohio State had a lot of momentum in the summer, and I put in my crystal ball forecast for the Buckeyes to land him, but I think his process has continued. His interest has definitely peaked with some other programs as well. I'm actually, Florida State's kind of trending on the crystal ball for Cam Akers. I'm kind of looking at LSU as a school that has a very great shot to land in Florida State in there. Ohio State's still very much in there, and Ole Miss as well, and he'll take official visits. And I just, for me, I didn't want to show up at Bucknuts every day with Ohio State prediction for Cam Akers that I didn't feel as strong about as I did in July. That doesn't mean that I don't think the Buckeyes will get him. I just think that I could definitely see him elsewhere, with LSU being the other school that I could really see him at right now. So I know, and that doesn't mean I'm ruling out Florida State or Ole Miss. I just, LSU, that's, talking to people, that one's intriguing. And so we'll see what happens with these officials, and he's going to enroll early and announce at the Army game. So, or at least that's the plan right now. So we'll see what happens. And then with JK, I mean, nothing's changed for me. He's committed to Ohio State. We'll see what kind of year Texas has. And certainly if Texas has a great year, they're going to be tough to beat for a lot of guys that they want. Or a lot of guys that they turn around and try and come back in on. But does that mean Ohio State will has something to fear here with JK? I mean, here's the thing, and I said last week when I was kind of defending Harbaugh and Michigan on here that it's tough for schools from Big Ten country to go down into SEC country and win recruiting battles or win them and then keep them, But Ohio State, and as I was reminded on the board, has certainly done better at that than anybody, with Urban Meyer at the top, and just from top to bottom, the staff and the dedication they put into recruiting and building relationships. So J.K. Dobbins, if he were to leave Ohio State's recruiting class, I can't imagine it would be an easy decision with Tony Alford being so involved and Urban Meyer and the staff. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting ride here, simply because if you look at the Buckeyes roster, they absolutely need to add running backs. I mean, it's really the only position on the team that I can look at right now and say it's a need, and I put that in quotes. I mean, could they survive with what they have? Absolutely. But in terms of having some depth and the way, running backs can get dinged up, if you look at their room on the depth chart, they didn't even list Antonio Williams in the 2D, which means he hasn't come along as much as they expected. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
I was told Antonio flashed some in the spring, so, maybe he's not game ready, but still long term, he's got a shot to be a good one. But I haven't checked on that in a while, but that was last I heard.
Yeah, I don't think the long-term prognosis has changed, but I do think that he kind of petered off towards the end of spring, which is to be expected of a guy making the adjustment. Speaking of an adjustment, we're moving on to 2018 here. As we mentioned, last night was kind of the Cinderella ball. Clock struck midnight. You could contact dudes. In terms of 2018, who are 2 or 3 guys you really think that Ohio State's going to spend a lot of time recruiting?
Well, Ohio State already has their top quarterback committed in Emory Jones, and then they have one of the nation's top running backs in the fold, and Brian Snead. Both were at Friday Night Lights, both committed. Man, it's, I think Ohio State's really going to recruit the hell out of Zamir White, the nation's number 1 running back, number 4 player overall. Jackson Carman, the number 1 player in Ohio, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, 5-star offensive tackle. He's going to be a name we talk a lot about. Jalen Gill, safety Jaden Woodbay, tight end Zach Kuntz. Dallas Gant, Christopher Oates, 2 in-state linebackers, Tyreek Johnson, the nation's number 1 safety. There's so many big-name guys that Ohio State's going to be in on. Tyler Friday, defensive tackle out of Bosco. And they were, so September 1st, midnight, that's when you can reach out to high school football prospects for the first time. And that gets an eye roll from some college football fans, and that even gets an eye roll from some college football coaches. It doesn't get an eye roll from Steve Wiltfong, though, because the kids are fired up about it, and Ohio State knows it, so they're fired up about it. So Mark Pantoni, he's got the squad ready to rock at midnight, sending awesome graphics, just being part of, it's an atmosphere day, really, at midnight. And then the substance comes in the morning and throughout the day when Ohio State's assistant coaches and head coach Urban Meyer will get on the phone with these guys and call them for the first time. But to college programs that don't embrace it at midnight, I don't understand it. Recruiting's a game of inches for me, and you never know which inch is the one that starts getting you out in front. And so Ohio State and their staff, they embrace them all. And so they were ready to go at midnight, and there were some programs that weren't, and they just look at it like it doesn't matter. We'll call them at 10, and maybe it doesn't, but to me it does, and the kids are fired up about it. I sent a lot of messages out to kids last night saying enjoy it, and every one of them got back to me. Every one of them. It's hard to bat 100%, but I batted 100% last night, and I only messaged top 247 kids. They were all geeked up to hear from coaches. And I guarantee most of them stayed up till midnight to see what was happening.
There's a dog and pony show aspect to it for sure, but you got to be involved. I'm looking here about one of the top 2018 linebackers, Taraja Mitchell out of Virginia Beach, Bishop Sullivan.
I've seen him in person. He's a special linebacker recruit.
No doubt. Then the beach, you know how I feel about the beach. Pound for pound, I'm of the mind that the Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area produces as good of football players as you will find in the United States. Maybe not as many, but for talent, they're impressive. All right, this is your last appearance before the official kickoff of the season. Obviously, the Buckeyes will host Bowling Green this weekend, noon kickoff. Weather is supposed to be spectacular. The Rubens will be there in force. I'm ecstatic. What is your prediction for Ohio State's season? And be careful, boy.
Well, I think Ohio State, I go back and forth on the season because I think there's so many good teams. And we talked about this off the air beforehand. I have Ohio State at 10-2. I mean, I just think they have to replace a ton. I recognize they're really, really talented. I definitely could make an argument for them going 12-0, but 10-2 is where I have them. I don't see any way they don't win double-digit games. So I just think that there's going to be some growing pains early that people aren't talking much about because we're just talking about how talented they are, and they certainly are. But guys are going to be counted on to make plays for 4 quarters, and those are guys that have only been really counted on to make plays in spots, if any. So I think there's going to be some growing pains. I think they'll lose one Big Ten game. My prediction is it'll be at Michigan State, but we'll see what happens. I don't feel strongly about my 10-2 prediction for Ohio State, but that's where it comes out for me, at least yesterday, when I kind of went through the season and said, all right, I need to get it down on paper, and here's the way I see it, and laugh at me if you want.
I don't think they'll be laughing. They may be doing something else after they hear 2 losses, but I don't think laughing will be it. All that said, we appreciate Steve stopping by. Have a good one.
Buckeyes be really good next year, though. Really good.
Ha! Nice try.